I know she will bring to the demands of her new role the steadfast devotion to duty on which I have come to rely so much.
Real-life families and, actually what's going on in the community, and it must be really challenging for you.
Merry Christmas.
Late one quiet afternoon inside the palace, a routine security check turned into a moment that froze everyone in place. A guard stopped short outside Prince Louis's playroom, sensing something was wrong. Toys were moved, drawers disturbed, and Camilla was standing there. What was meant to be an innocent space for a child suddenly became the center of whispered panic and urgent calls. So why was she there? What was touched, and what discovery made this situation truly bad behind closed palace doors that night inside? Before the palace woke. This morning, something felt different. Long before the palace stirred, before trays rattled and footsteps filled the halls, a sharp metallic sound slipped through the quiet like a secret refusing to stay hidden. It echoed near the children's wing, just as the clock edged towards 7 a.m., a time meant for sleep and silence. The Prince and Princess of Wales were already away in Scotland for a scheduled engagement, leaving the residence unusually calm and lightly staffed. That calm did not last. A senior guard, trained to notice what others miss, moved with care through the corridor. Near Prince Louis's playroom, a figure crouched low, working with focus and haste. It took a moment to recognize the Queen Consort. She was not dressed for public view, still in her mourning robe, hair untouched, eyes restless. In her hand was a screwdriver. At her feet rested a small bag holding more than routine items. The lock on the playroom door was being removed, piece by piece, replaced with something far heavier and far more complex than before. This was no ordinary change. Palace security runs on records and approvals, a system refined over decades. Every lock is logged, every alteration signed off. Yet here, in the early hours, none of that process seemed to apply. The new device was professional grade, the sort used in secure offices rather than a 5-year-old's play space. Fingers moved quickly, betraying nerves when a screw slipped and tapped the floor. The corridor remained empty, though the stillness carried weight. Footsteps soon followed, small and soft. Princess Charlotte appeared, barely awake, curiosity written plainly on her face. The Queen Consort shifted instantly, placing herself between the child and the door, offering a gentle explanation about a faulty latch and an early repair. The words sounded smooth, but the moment did not. Charlotte, polite and observant beyond her years, accepted the answer without protest and returned down the hall, her presence leaving behind a sharper tension than before. Once alone, the Queen Consort tested the keypad, nodded with brief relief, and disappeared toward the private stairs. By 7:20 a.m., the palace was only minutes away from waking fully. Staff would arrive. Nannies would collect the children. Normal life would resume as if nothing had changed. Yet something had. The guard later stood before the door, seeing the faint glow of the keypad in the dim light. The handle did not move. The lock held firm. With the king away at Sandringham and the Waleses still north, the weight of what had happened pressed heavily. Silence carried risks, but speaking carried consequences just as grave. As the palace came alive, one quiet action from the early hours lingered, unsettling, unexplained, and impossible to ignore. Could those quiet, unexplained early-hour movements be the very clue that made James Whitmore realize the palace was hiding something far more serious? The locked door mystery. As the grand old palace stirred to life that Tuesday morning, James Whitmore knew he had stumbled onto something serious. He quickly jotted down every detail he had witnessed, the strange events, the precise timing, and sent his report up the chain to Captain Morrison. Whatever secrets were unfolding, and no matter who might be behind them, This demanded a proper look. Little did he realize how his quiet observation would soon shine a light on hidden strains inside the royal household. For months, quiet disagreements had bubbled beneath the surface, mostly swirling around the youngest child of the Wales family and what place he might one day hold in the monarchy's long story. The heart of the trouble appeared in the children's wing, where innocent routine suddenly hit a wall. Maria Santos, the cheerful nanny who had cared for little Prince Louis since his first days, bounced into her shift, full of her usual warmth. She knew every beat of the boy's day. Tuesday mornings meant drums in the playroom to warm up for his 10 o'clock music lesson. With her trusty key, blue tag and all, in hand, she approached the familiar door. But the key refused to turn. Maria tried again, wiggling it like she sometimes did with the old, fussy lock. Still nothing. Then she saw it. The plain brass lock was gone, swapped for a shiny new one with a glowing digital keypad. No one had said a word about upgrades. No signs, no notes from maintenance. Her stomach twisted as she tested the handle, solidly locked. She dialed the household office right away. Mrs. Patricia Drummond, who had run things smoothly for more than 20 years, picked up quickly. "A new lock? That's impossible," she said, her voice steady but edged with worry. Nothing showed in the logs. No work had been scheduled in the children's area. Maria described the sleek, high-tech device staring back at her. Silence stretched on the line before Mrs. Drummond promised to investigate and send help with a master key. Soon, Mr. Henderson, the maintenance chief, stormed up with his tools, face flushed. "This breaks every rule," he grumbled. "No one installs locks here without my sign-off. It's Security 101. He inspected the intruder. A pricey biometric model, fitted by experts. His master key failed. Even the emergency override did nothing. Drilling it out would be noisy and risky to the doorframe, but with the prince and princess away in Scotland for the day, they couldn't wait. Little Louis would soon want his toys and drums. Right on cue, small footsteps echoed down the hall. 5-year-old Louis dashed in, eyes sparkling with excitement. "Maria, drums now, please." His grin faded when he saw the crowd and the stubborn door. His lip quivered. Maria knelt, keeping her tone light. "Just a little fix, sweetheart. How about chocolate pancakes first? By the time you're done, it'll be open." The boy thought it over with serious 5-year-old logic, then took her hand and trotted off to breakfast. As the drill's whine filled the corridor, drawing curious glances from staff, word raced through the palace. Something odd was happening in the kids' wing. James, grabbing coffee on his break, felt his gut clench. His earlier report to Morrison had been met with a grim nod and one firm order: stay quiet, stay near. Who had ordered this secret upgrade? Was it protection or a clever trap? And who exactly was meant to be kept out or in? So was the locked playroom a simple security measure or a calculated trap? And who wanted that door closed when the nanny raised the alarm? Shadows in the playroom. When the nanny found the playroom door stubbornly locked that crisp morning in London, she alerted the staff, setting off a chain of whispers that echoed through the grand halls of the palace. James, the watchful guard, felt a chill as he filed his urgent note. This wasn't just a stuck knob. It smelled like trouble brewing deep within the royal walls. It took the sturdy Mr. Henderson a full 45 minutes to force the lock open with his tools, the metallic snap finally granting entry. Inside, Maria scanned the cozy space, drums tucked in the corner, colorful blocks stacked high, books lined up neatly, and art tools in their spots. All seemed fine until Mrs. Drummond spotted it. An elegant cream envelope on the little table by the window, stamped with the royal crest like a silent warning. Her fingers trembled as she slid out the paper. A directive from the Queen Consort, dated January 12th, ordered the room turned into storage for Clarence House's old treasures. The Prince and Princess of Wales had supposedly agreed. Yet, Mrs. Drummond's brow furrowed. "This can't be right," she murmured. Mr. Henderson lowered his drill. "You think she swapped the lock herself?" Mrs. Drummond said nothing. Calling the princess in Scotland, she returned, stormy. "She's furious, cutting her trip short." Henderson bagged the shattered lock, while keys were handed to the right people. Meanwhile, young Louis banged drums, oblivious to the palace's tense hum. Meanwhile, in the speeding car toward the Scottish airport, Catherine gripped her phone, fury etching her features. "She has no right meddling in our family's corners," she said, voice sharp. William squeezed her hand, his own temper simmering. They hadn't yet heard James's full account, the shadowy figure he'd seen tampering before dawn, or the forged memo crafted with sly intent. But truths were unraveling, and the clash ahead promised to expose cracks in the monarchy that ran deeper than any door or decree, turning a child's haven into the spark of a family feud. What happened at 3:30 that sent Catherine storming from the car, William seething behind her? And what revelation awaited inside Kensington Palace? The Playroom plot. Back at Kensington Palace that crisp afternoon, the car pulled up sharply at 3:30, and Catherine leapt out, her steps quick and fierce like a storm brewing. William trailed close, his jaw set in quiet fury, sending staff scurrying into shadows. In the cozy sitting room, Mrs. Drummond waited with a stack of papers, her face etched with worry. Beside her stood Captain Morrison, shifting uneasily, as if holding a secret too heavy. Catherine didn't waste words. Lay it all out. Mrs. Drummond spread the documents recounting the nanny's shock at 9 a.m. Prince Louis's playroom sealed with a new lock. Inside, a royal-sealed memo twisted the truth, claiming William and Catherine discussed shutting it down as a distraction. Catherine's eyes flashed. "This is pure invention. We never said a word about closing anything." Morrison cleared his throat, pulling notes from his pocket. "There's a guards report that fits this mess." He described Sergeant Whitmore's early watch in the family wing at 7:05 a.m. Hidden in the dim hall, the sergeant spotted the Queen Consort alone by the playroom door, tools in hand, swapping the old lock for that very same high-security one. She fiddled for 15 minutes, punching in a secret code, then slipped something, a paper perhaps, inside, before clicking it shut. But the tale grew darker. Little Princess Charlotte, just 7, wandered in curiously. "What's happening?" she asked innocently. The Queen Consort smiled sweetly, claiming she was just mending a stubborn door that wouldn't latch right. Charlotte nodded and skipped away, none the wiser. Catherine's hands trembled. "She deceived our girl, right there in our home." William paced to the window, staring out at the palace grounds, his voice low and edged. "She invaded our kids' world, tampered without a nod from us, and forged lies on paper. Why the sneakiness over a simple room?" Mrs. Drummond, with her 20 years in royal circles, leaned in wisely. "It's not the toys or games at stake. This feels like a clever probe, a way to test if she could slip into your family's reigns unnoticed." The room hung heavy with the idea. If the lock had stayed, unquestioned, it might open doors to bigger grabs, meddling in schedules, lessons, even public outings. The playroom was merely the first quiet push in a game of control. Catherine rose, resolved to steal her gaze. "We can't let this slide. It's time to face the king." In the heart of London's grand Kensington Palace, whispers of rivalry echoed through gilded halls, where family bonds clashed with hidden ambitions. What started as a locked door unraveled into a web of intrigue, challenging the very core of trust within the crown. But had the web of intrigue already moved, as Morrison revealed the Queen Consort rushed to Sandringham, standing by the king when trouble began? Shadows of the crown. Morrison fidgeted in his chair, his voice low and steady. "Your Royal Highnesses, we've hit a snag. The Queen Consort headed to Sandringham early this morning, right after the trouble started. She's by the King's side, now." Catherine's mind raced with sharp frustration. Of course, Camilla had rushed off to whisper her side of the story first, painting herself as the innocent one before the truth could catch up. William's jaw tightened, his decision swift. Then, Sandringham it is. We leave tonight. No delays. As they stepped into the grand drawing room at Sandringham that evening, the air felt thick with unspoken secrets. Charles stood up, his face etched with worry, while Camilla stayed seated, her gaze calm but tired, like a mask hiding deeper storms. "William, Catherine, what brings you here so suddenly? Are the little ones okay?" "The children are safe, Father," William replied, his tone even but firm. He glanced at Catherine, who nodded subtly. This moment had been building all day, a web of betrayal unraveling in their Kensington home. Earlier, back at the palace in London, they'd pieced it together. The nanny's urgent call about a strange lock on Lewis's playroom door, the fake note claiming their approval. It all pointed to an overstep that cut deep. Charlotte's confused questions to her step-grandmother, Lewis's innocent pleas for his toys, had turned a simple room into a battleground of trust. Before hitting the road to Norfolk, they'd called in Sergeant Whitmore. The guard stood tall but uneasy in the cozy sitting room. "At ease," William said warmly. "Your quick report shone a light on this mess. You could have looked the other way. But you chose what's right." "Just protecting the family, sir," Whitmore replied, shaking William's hand. "That means all of you, even from inside threats." Catherine watched him go, then turned to William. "We can't storm in like warriors. Charles dotes on the grandkids. Louis is his favorite. But if Camilla's twisted the tale, making it seem like she was just helping, we'll set it straight," William assured her, slipping on his coat. The 3-hour drive through the darkening countryside gave them time to reflect. Catherine replayed the violation. Someone sneaking in at dawn, changing locks, forging papers, deceiving their daughter. It wasn't just about a door. It was a strike at their family's heart, their choices as parents. Now, facing the king and queen consort by the flickering fireplace, William pulled out his phone. Photos of the shattered old lock, the shiny new one, the phony memo, evidence that demanded answers. Morrison's detailed account backed it up, every word scrutinized during the tense ride. Camilla set her cup down gently. "If it's the playroom, I meant well. A mix-up, surely." "No mix-up," Catherine said steadily, her hand on William's arm to keep things calm. "It was a bold intrusion into our private space, false claims of our okay, and a fib to Charlotte when she asked why." Charles's eyes darted between them, the room heavy with the weight of loyalty and legacy. "Let's hear the full story," he urged, as the Norfolk estate's shadows seemed to listen in. In that instant, boundaries were redrawn, respect demanded, and the royal family's fragile bonds tested like never before. And with respect demanded and royal bonds tested, what was Camilla hiding at 7:05 when the guard spotted her changing Louis's playroom lock? Shadows of legacy. Early that morning, at precisely 7:05, a guard spotted Camilla swapping out the lock on young Lewis's playroom door. She slipped in a new high-security one and tucked away a note inside, pretending it had royal approval to turn the space into storage for old family treasures. When little Charlotte wandered in and asked what was happening, Camilla smoothly claimed she was just mending a faulty door. But secrets like that don't stay hidden long in a place like Sandringham. The drawing room felt thick with unspoken words as the family gathered later. William's eyes narrowed at Camilla, his usual calm giving way to quiet fury. "You went behind our backs while we were gone," he said, voice low but sharp. Bought that lock, had it brought in, even crafted a fake approval note. Why the rush? Why the lies? Camilla shifted in her seat, glancing at Charles for support, but the king stood by the flickering fireplace, his face etched with rare disappointment. "I only meant to help," she murmured, her poise crumbling. "Those artifacts from Clarence House, they're pieces of our history. I figured the Playroom could hold them for now, since you and Catherine have so much on your plates." Catherine leaned forward, her tone steady, yet edged with resolve. "Helping doesn't mean sneaking around at dawn or fibbing to a curious 7-year-old. Our kids' spaces are off limits, Camilla. This isn't just a mix-up. It's a line crossed." The room fell quiet save for the fire's soft pops as Charles turned to his wife. Was this really thought through? Waiting until they were away, creating documents that never existed. It feels planned, not helpful. Camilla rose, her words tumbling out defensively. "I've always aimed to fit in, to support you all. If I pushed too far, it came from caring about the family's past. But you've kept me at a distance, never fully letting me in with the children." William shook his head. "They love you. They rush into your arms, call you Gangan. We've protected them from these games, these tests of what you can slip by." Charles raised a hand for peace, but the air crackled with tension. "Enough," he said firmly. "We need rules in writing. No one touches their home without clear okay. No lock changes, no room shifts, especially not for the kids. This goes for everyone, even me." Camilla's face paled. "So, now I'm the outsider. My time with my step-grandchildren questioned over one slip?" Catherine met her gaze evenly. "It's not punishment, it's respect. Explain it. Why dodge asking us? Why the fake story?" In that heavy pause, Camilla's voice dropped to a whisper. "I craved purpose. You're the shining future, adored everywhere. The kids light up the world. Me? I'm still the one they gossip about, the latecomer. I just wanted to matter." Charles sighed, the weight of it all showing. Good hearts can lead to bad choices, but boundaries protect us all. As the fire dimmed, Catherine sensed victory in this clash, yet the deeper rift lingered, whispering of storms ahead in their tangled royal web. Could this unexpected flicker of understanding between Catherine and Camilla spark a shocking shift in their tangled royal web? A quiet reckoning. Catherine had never expected to feel a pang of understanding toward Camilla that evening. Yet there it was, a quiet flicker of recognition. She knew the ache of stepping into a world that wasn't quite yours, of forever wondering if the family truly accepted you or merely tolerated the marriage. That shared shadow of being the outsider softened her voice, even as anger still simmered beneath. But understanding could not erase the breach. The locks changed in the dead of night. The whispers are already spreading among the staff. The 3-hour drive William and Catherine had endured just to face this mess head on. Those details hung heavy in the room, impossible to ignore. Camilla sat rigid, eyes glistening, insisting her only aim had been to help with the precious historical artifacts. "I never wanted harm," she said, voice cracking. She had believed involving young Charlotte was harmless guidance, a small step toward belonging more fully. William's response came steady and unyielding. What happened didn't help. It was control dressed up as kindness. And now we must repair the damage. Charles, who had lingered by the fireplace as if holding himself apart from the storm, finally took his seat. His tone sharpened with a king's rare edge. The real humiliation, he declared, wasn't any required apology or briefing. It was the gossip rippling through Clarence House corridors. It was his son and daughter-in-law forced to confront his wife over something that should never have crossed into secrecy. He laid out the path forward clearly. A formal letter of regret addressed to William and Catherine, another to Charlotte for the misleading trust placed in her young hands. The artifacts would no longer sit in hidden limbo. They would be catalogued properly and housed rightly, perhaps at Clarence House or the familiar walls of St. James's Palace. And Camilla would join the same security and protocol sessions every new family member received. No exceptions. Camilla protested the sting of it all, cheeks flushing. Charles met her gaze without flinching. "You built this moment. We all pay the price to mend it." Tears finally escaped, wiped away with an angry swipe of her hand. She agreed to the apologies but clung to her original motive, pure intention to contribute. Catherine's reply landed soft yet final. "Actions outweigh what we meant to do. Some lines, once crossed, stay crossed." The conversation tapered into practical steps, drafting protocols, setting dates for briefings. In a quieter moment afterward, Charles drew William and Catherine aside, offering a private word of sorrow for what his wife had set in motion. Camilla slipped away to her chambers soon after, the door closing softly behind her. For the first time, the full weight of her choices pressed down, no longer a vague unease, but a heavy, undeniable truth. The family she had married into had drawn its boundaries anew, not out of cruelty, but necessity. And in that quiet aftermath, each of them carried forward the fragile work of trust rebuilt, one careful step at a time. So, after trust was painstakingly rebuilt step by step, what hidden tension lingers on the dark roads back to Kensington Palace? A quiet line drawn behind palace doors. During the drive back to Kensington Palace, the car moved through the darkened roads like a pause after a storm. William reached for Catherine's hand, his voice steady with pride, as he told her she had done exactly what the moment required. Catherine admitted the truth she had held back earlier, the anger, the urge to confront, the temptation to demand answers. But restraint had mattered more than release. Calm words had carried weight where emotion would have failed, and for the first time, the message had truly landed. By the time they arrived home, the palace was silent. Upstairs, the children slept without a care in the world. Louis lay tangled in his sheets beside his favorite toy. Charlotte's blankets had slipped to the floor, and George rested peacefully, untouched by the tension that had filled the day. Catherine paused in the doorway, watching them, her resolve hardening. Whatever games were being played among adults, they would not reach this far. William's arms settled around her shoulders, a quiet promise of unity and protection. The next morning brought action instead of argument. A simple brass lock appeared on the door to Louis's playroom, installed with precision and recorded with care. Keys were limited, logs updated, and staff reminded firmly but professionally that duty outweighed rank. Within palace corridors, the story was not whispered as gossip, but shared as instruction. Procedures mattered. Boundaries mattered more. Even Sergeant Whitmore, back at his post, found his name quietly marked with respect for choosing protocol over convenience. 3 days later, a letter arrived, handwritten and unmistakably formal. The Queen Consort acknowledged her misstep in measured language, expressing regret and offering apology. A second, shorter note addressed Charlotte directly, admitting a lack of honesty. Catherine read both carefully before filing them away. The words served their purpose, but they were not the true resolution. What followed carried greater meaning. Across the following weeks, new rules rolled out through royal residences from Kensington to Sandringham. Briefings were held, access reviewed, and lines clarified. It was awkward, even tedious, but effective. Life resumed its familiar rhythm. Louis drummed happily in his playroom. Charlotte returned to her piano. The household moved forward, though no one forgot what had changed. In royal history, it might seem insignificant. A lock, a memo, a quiet confrontation in 2024. Yet within the private balance of power, it marked a shift. Catherine had shown she would defend her family without raising her voice. William had made clear that even blood ties stopped where his children began. Charles, faced with an uncomfortable choice, had placed the stability of the institution and his son's household above instinctive loyalty. As for the Queen Consort, the lesson was unmistakable. A title could grant status, but it did not grant control. Informal access, once taken for granted, had quietly disappeared. The Playroom remained just that, a place for laughter and noise, untouched by adult ambition. The small brass lock stayed in place, unremarkable at a glance, yet heavy with meaning. It stood as proof that a boundary had been crossed, answered, and sealed, never to be tested again. So what do you think the guard truly saw inside Prince Louis's Playroom, and why is Camilla at the center of it all? We'd like to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe.